Hello, welcome to this update for North America. Let's see what's going to happen both in the tropics and also some severe weather. So first, let's see what's happening this severe weather. So we have a slight risk today across Texas into Arkansas, southern Missouri, spots of Illinois into Kentucky, and most of Mississippi, northern Louisiana. So we have this margin as well from Texas to southern Michigan, and there's a decent tornado threat today. This big 5% covering like 99% of Arkansas, spots in eastern Texas, into Louisiana, Mississippi, and all the way to southern Illinois. There's this 2% that goes as far north as Michigan. There's wind threat 15% as well, and some large hail, especially in Oklahoma into Arkansas, spots in Texas. So please be aware of those storms. Scared severe thunderstorms are possible today and tonight across parts of the Arctic, the Ozarks, and spots of lower Mississippi and Ohio valleys. Damaging winds, a few tornadoes and hail might occur. So be careful in those areas and stay safe. So let's see into eastern Texas and Oklahoma. Convection will likely increase in coverage and intensity from southern Missouri to eastern Oklahoma, Texas, from late morning onward as the ejecting shortwave trough approaches the region. Moderate buoyancy and strengthening deep layer shear supports some organized convection that will spread eastward through the afternoon. Initial supercell development could pose a threat for hail, locally damaging winds, along with some tornado potential. Increasing ascent will tend to favor eventual storm cluster and possible QSCS development, with time resulting continued damaging wind threat along some embedded brief tornado potential, and guidance deceits a local buoyancy minimal across eastern Arkansas into Tennessee in late afternoon, which may cause some weakening as storms move into this area. However, notable increase the low-level jet may support some re-intensification of storms during the evening near eastern Mississippi Valley. Continued threat for damaging winds, possible a couple tornadoes may persist into overnight near the central Gulf Coast vicinity. So be careful in those areas and also be aware of spots in lower Ohio Valley, Midwest. So please be careful, especially stay well aware of this tornado potential possible. So here shows a few storms start in Texas, into Oklahoma, the strongest ones further east in eastern Texas and Oklahoma, but there'll be some storms most of central Oklahoma too. This goes shows later in the afternoon, like into Arkansas, northern Louisiana, Texas, some stronger cells. Here, let's just put south, shows like these storms go, especially might be organized in a line of storms into most of Arkansas with some damaging winds and tornado threat and some hail. This goes later into the night, a stronger, more congealed line of storms into Mississippi. This is more characteristic of a damaging wind threat later into the night. So be careful along the Gulf Coast. So stay safe. The tornado threat might be earlier in the afternoon and into the early evening, especially the cells, and later in the night more the damaging wind threat strengthens, but still a tornado threat into the night as well. So be careful. Be careful some hail, the stronger cells, some large hail. So stay safe. In terms of cape, shows some decent cape in a few areas, not too much, but does show some 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. A few areas above 2,000, Texas into Arkansas, and those areas. So stay safe, be careful in those areas. The updraft in Halisti is not too high, but there's some chance for large hail into Texas, northern Louisiana, even to southern Illinois and Missouri, a few stronger cells. So be careful in those areas. That the significant tornado parameter, like this evening, shows even southern Missouri like 1.6, and then later in the evening, still across the line in Texas and Louisiana, but it's not that high today, so Not too crazy, but there's the 5%, so be aware. Shows southern Missouri, should watch as well. Late into the night, does show us still across Texas, some values, and into Louisiana. But by this time, the line of storms will already be across Mississippi, those areas. So stay safe and be careful, those storms coming. Let's just see day two if there's something here. There's still a marginal across spots the Appalachians into the northeast and even the Gulf Coast for Sunday. So does show us 2% tornado threat in the south on Sunday. Be careful, and wind in both areas, especially in the Appalachians northeast, and hail less than 5%. So be aware, isolated wind damage may occur on Sunday into Sunday evening for part of the Ohio Valley into the Appalachians, Mid-Atlantic regions. Additional isolated severe storms over the Gulf Coast in early Sunday, like leftover from the line of storms today. So be careful, just general storms on Monday. Nothing too crazy. We actually have an elevated fire threat there in a few spots, North Texas, into Oklahoma, because of the winds from this system. So be careful. Shows like the snowfall probabilities today is quite high in a few higher peaks in Washington, but the highest is there in Canada and British Columbia. But shows some probabilities in Washington, northern Montana, and Idaho. They show this snow spreads further into Idaho, Montana, Washington, and two spots of Wyoming, so be aware tomorrow. Day 3, nothing too crazy, but day 5 and day 6 starts in the northwest again, especially in the Cascades later into next week, so be aware. And then day 1, there's a slight risk of excessive rainfall in Arkansas into Illinois and spots of Missouri, especially southern Missouri and extreme northern Arkansas and most of Missouri. So be aware in the marginal from Texas to Michigan. Day 2 in the northeast, kind of spots the Appalachians. Day 3 further into New England, a marginal. And day 4 and day 5, nothing. So be aware. And let's see. There's something else in the mountains there. Still nothing too crazy, but we do have some moderate winter storm severity index in the mountains today and tomorrow, especially in Montana, those areas there in the northern Rockies. So be aware. And yeah, stay safe. Just checking there's anything here, but there's not really any heat anymore, but there's still some water heat risk in far southern Texas, so don't forget about that as well. And here in the tropics, you can see there's two areas now. One in the Caribbean from the tropic wave in the Atlantic, another one in the North Atlantic. This one is just 10%. And the non-tropical low pressure, okay, well off the coast and northeast. There's a slight chance of formation development subtropical characteristics this weekend before it turns northeast over cooler waters. So this might try to acquire subtropical characteristics similar to Karen last week, but not much. So don't worry about that. But there's this area that we should take a close look at. So it's already 30% next 7 days. A tropical wave located in the central tropical Atlantic, about 900 miles easterly of the Windward Islands, could produce a large air showers and thunderstorms gradually around this distance possible during the next several days, or moves westward 20 miles per hour. Regardless of the value, the system produce heavy rain, gusty winds in spots the Windward Islands late this weekend and in the Caribbean next week. So be aware in those areas, just keep watching. There's this area in the Eastern Pacific, 0%, so don't really worry about that. And let's see this area in the Caribbean better. So there's the GFS. It does try to form this system later next week off of Nicaragua, and it forms another one south of Hispaniola. So the one south of Hispaniola is this tropical wave coming in now, and some remnant moisture. The GFS indicates something near Nicaragua as well. But the GFS does turn that into a hurricane, spots of Hispaniola there into Turks and Caicos, but I don't really trust the GFS, it's too crazy. There's the European that was developing this a few days ago. It even had a hurricane, but now it's just a group of showers and storms. It barely has a depression. So But like 2 days ago, it did have a tropical storm from this wave in the Caribbean. There's the Canadian too, shows like this tropical wave goes, some gusty showers and storms on Monday in the Caribbean, and then this goes and tries to form a tropical storm between Jamaica and Central America, but doesn't really succeed much. So there's the icon shows like this goes, the wave there. And then it tries to congeal into something, but not really. So the models are not too excited right now, but the ensembles are still kind of excited. So there's like the European ensembles. They do show this wave tries to get into the Caribbean there, but the most support is around Central America for something to spin up quick next week, so better watch the area near Central America. This is the European ensembles. The GFS has something stronger near Hispaniola and Jamaica, so better watch the GFS as well, but it's not too trustable. But there's the Google AI model. It does show some members around the Caribbean. Some are stronger there near Central America. There's not much support on this, but it does show some members. There's this other Google AI model around Central America. So the most support is around Central America. And there's that subtropical area low pressure as well there. So yesterday, this first model here had like some stronger guidance going north, like the GFS into Hispaniola, but today it's slightly weaker, so it varies a lot. Tomorrow might show something else. So still watching, but just watch it if you are in the Caribbean. Let's see the European model here now. The tropical depression probabilities. It does show there like in the Atlantic first tropical storm probabilities. It barely has anything there, but later grows in Central America around the 25th to 28th. It shows there around Central America some 10% chance of a tropical storm. Also near the Caribbean has a 10% now, especially this next Tuesday. So better watch those areas. But tropical depression probabilities, it already has like a 40% chance in the Eastern Caribbean by Tuesday. This goes and around Central America, north of Colombia, has even a 70% chance of tropical depression. So this is a decent chance, especially by next Friday, around a week from now. So better watch this area in the Caribbean very closely, because especially yesterday and before, the models were very certain forming something there, but today they aren't that excited. But better watch those areas closely. We'll make another video about this probably early next week. So just watch this and be careful the rainfall in the Caribbean, because starting Sunday into Monday, this will bring some stronger showers and storms near the Eastern Caribbean. There might be some advisories around Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, so be careful. Some 60 millimeters, a few areas 30, 40 millimeters. So be aware once this gets in to the Caribbean, shows more quantities of rainfall, especially in Nicaragua into next week, so 100 millimeters, northern Costa Rica, and around southern Mexico, Central America, just more showers and storms to be careful with around Hispaniola and in Turks and Caicos, some heavier showers. And be aware, in long range does increase, especially in Central America, if the system forms. So in the last week of October, it should get pretty busy around Central America. So better keep watching and be aware. The GFS is stronger in the Eastern Caribbean. It has even like to 97 to 100 meters from like between Sunday and Tuesday when this wave goes into the Caribbean. So just be careful. Nicaragua is right to 300 meters on the GFS. So this changes a lot, but just know that there might be some heavy rain, and it goes absolutely crazy near Hispaniola because it forms the hurricane. But the GFS is the only one forming the hurricane that way, so don't trust it quite yet, but just be aware that this wave is coming with some heavy rain. and a potential storm. The Icon in Trinidad has some storms as well, but especially in Tobago has close to 100 meters. So be careful with this wave coming. Could be some rough showers in the Turks and Caicos and other areas. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. In the US and Canada, it's still like some cold temperatures, especially further in the northwest into Alaska, Yukon, Northwestern Territories, and spots there in Nunavut. So be careful that cold, well into the negative temperatures into British Columbia, there in the Rockies in Alberta as well, and south into Montana and Idaho, some 30s, 20s degrees Fahrenheit, right? Into Colorado, some 20s. So be careful. Spots in the Sierra Nevada, even to the northeast, some 30s in those areas. So be aware. And in Eastern Canada, like 0 to -1 degree Celsius in Quebec, a few areas like this morning. This goes to this afternoon. It warms up in Texas and northern Mexico, close to even like 35 degrees Celsius in Mexico and some 90s in southern Texas. So be aware. Shows tonight into Sunday morning this cooler air mass across the west behind the front causing the severe weather. Shows even some 20s still in Colorado, low 20s in the Rockies, and as you go into Canada, some -1, -2. In Saskatchewan, a few areas above zero, like 8, 2 degrees, but does show most of northwestern Canada very frigid. It's even -12. There in Alaska, even like -5 degrees Fahrenheit, so very cold, 1 degree Fahrenheit, very cold in Alaska. So stay safe in those areas. In Nunavut, very cold. In eastern Canada, it's better, but still cold in many areas. Even like this is Tuesday morning, so -1 degree Celsius in Saskatchewan, more spots in the Rockies, northern Canada. So be careful. And there in Alaska, it's still like some -10 degrees Fahrenheit, central northern Alaska next week. So stay safe. Tuesday, Wednesday shows like more spots central Canada, possibly into the northern Midwest, even like showing potential the European North Dakota, Minnesota, are in the low 30s into high 20s degrees Fahrenheit. So low 30s possible next week. In the Rockies, it continues there. Along the coast, it's better. Some spots in the west coast, some 50s. In the south, it's warm, of course, and central areas, some 40s. Wednesday, Thursday, still hotter in Texas, a few areas, and colder in the mountains, potentially the Appalachians later the end of next week. So be aware. Those areas still watching. And let's see, there's the snow as well. Shows like most of northwestern North America into northwestern Canada and Alaska, and spots in especially British Columbia, more than 100 centimeters in the mountains, and in the Rockies, 35 to 40 centimeters. In western British Columbia, more than 150 centimeters by the European in the mountains. The GFS 98 to 137 centimeters. Does show snow in Saskatchewan starting in Ontario to some 17, 16 centimeters. The European barely anything in Ontario, just a few spots, but the GFS is a lot in Ontario, so it's two completely different situations. The icon is right in the middle, not too much, not too little. It has a little bit in Ontario, so be aware, but especially in Western Canada and northern areas, some heavier snow. So in Alaska, does show some like spots in the south, some 18 inches, 20 inches in the mountains, but especially in these mountains there in lower Alaska, like 104 inches in a few areas. And be careful, Central Alaska. In the lower Rockies, it does show in Montana some like 9 inches, 10 inches, a few areas in Idaho, next 5 days, 12 inches. and still shows northern Utah, in the mountains, central Utah, some 2 inches, but especially in Colorado and Wyoming, some 5 inches, a few areas 1 inch, even the Sierra Nevada, very little. So be aware. Those areas in the east doesn't show much near the Atlantic, but the Europeans like 0.4 inches north of Pennsylvania. That's extremely little. The other models don't have anything, so don't really mind that. But be aware, northern Quebec shows like 5 centimeters, 14 centimeters as well in a few areas. So stay safe, and long range does increase, especially along the west. And the Europeans kind of drunk in the long range because take a look at this. Has snow in Arkansas next 15 days, but don't really mind that. It must be a glitch and it will change. But if we check like the temperatures in the long range, does show like some above average temperature spots in eastern Canada now, and some below average on the west. Does show slightly below average next week central US and the west coast, especially northwest. Then there's these waves of below average temperatures that keep coming from time to time. Show some above average in the south, but then this goes another zone of above average by the 26th, and possibly another cold wave of below average later in October. And look at this, the GFS just goes absolutely insane in late October. And the European kind of it has this cold wave like on October 30th, but still before that, some above average. So still watching everything, but be aware, especially in the tropics and other areas.